Welcome to Yin Yoga for Fall. As we are recording this or watching or doing this live together, it is exactly mid-October. And so we're just halfway through the first part of fall. Or I guess we would be almost through the first month of fall now. So we're in it. We're in it. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the fall is ruled by the metal element, which is a kind of a different element than maybe some other traditions have, which I find interesting. And today's practice is going to be all about the meridians or energy lines connected with the metal element. So I'll speak a little bit about that first. After we do a little centering, I'll share some acupuncture points that you can use on yourself, and then we'll get into the practice. Sound good? Okay. If you have some props at home, I highly recommend a blanket or something soft that you can use. It's always super versatile, something you can roll up. Maybe one block if you have yoga blocks at home, and if not, maybe a little cushion or something of that nature. You could also use a yoga bolster if you have one of those at home. Pretty much grab a couple of things that you think might be supportive for your practice. And I'm going to step onto the mat and have a drink of my warm water. So many of you know that in the Ayurveda world, we talk about drinking hot water or warm water. Well, pretty much every country except for the United States says drink warm water, not ice water. So if there were ever a time of year to start, it would certainly be now. So let's begin wherever you'd like to begin. I'm going to begin seated with a little cushion underneath my bum. If you would like to be reclined or with some support behind your back, feel free. And I like to look around my space, even if it's a familiar space, maybe turn and twist to look behind you. And all of this just helps your nervous system feel safe enough, hopefully, to orient your energy to whatever you're orienting towards, in this case, our practice together. And if it feels right, bring one hand to the chest or to the heart, and the other to the belly, maybe even the low belly. You're welcome to keep the eyes open for as long as you'd like. And simply tune into the natural rhythm of your breath. Perhaps also tune into the different sensations you're aware of on the skin, or maybe even connected to your breath. Expansion and contraction happening underneath the hands. As you continue to breathe in your own natural rhythm, can you give thanks on your next in-breath for all the prana, the life force, the chi that is being taken in through the nose, through the lungs, and distributed throughout the whole body? You might even say, thank you, lungs. And perhaps on one of your next exhales, can you give thanks for your body's ability this innate knowing of how to let go, a letting go breath, but also other ways of letting go, elimination, the large intestine being a big part of that. You might even say, thank you for letting go, or thank you, large intestine. And welcome this cycle of bringing in life and also of letting go. And if you feel like you're efforting here with your breath, can you let go of that effort ever so slightly? Instead, perhaps enjoy being with the rhythm that is already always happening. You're welcome to linger here for as long as you would like. If you're ready for something a little bit different, you might take the hand that's on your chest or on your heart. Find your collarbone on the opposite side of your body. And take your fingertips just below the collarbone and run them along towards the outside, towards the shoulder, until you find kind of a natural divot or ending spot for your collarbone area, kind of near the armpit. And if you start to poke around or maybe even massage with the fingers in a gentle clockwise circle, you'll have found what is called lung 1, or the acupuncture point that sort of begins the superficial part of the energy line or the meridian, known as the lung meridian. Now, meridians are really just these energetic highways or pathways along which chi or prana, or what we call life force, and other things can flow and move. And so sometimes stimulating this point, in this case, can help open up lung chi. And it's the beginning of a line that runs down the inside of your arm and ends at the outside edge of your thumbnail. So you can imagine drawing this line here, and throughout our practice, we'll be doing postures that emphasize arm positions in order to stimulate these points along this meridian. So this is one that you can use to help open up, again, lung chi. It can also be helpful if you're ever having a seizing cough. You know, coughing is the body's natural way to get stuff out, but sometimes it can be no longer helpful if it's more of a spasmodic thing that that gets to be sort of out of control. Remember that meridians exist on both sides of the body, most of them. And so the point, lung 1, exists on the other side too. So if you want to find out with your other hand, on the underside of the other collarbone. And then you can imagine the line going down and ending at the thumb. The lung is, as I mentioned in our breathing, very much in charge of respiration. And then energetically, it's also in charge of pulling in that chi, the life force energy through the lungs, through the nose, through the breathing, and distributing it throughout the body. And so it's like a master distributor. It works together with its pair meridian, the large intestine, which starts at the index finger and comes up the outer side of the arm towards the shoulder blades in the back. And so if you're interested in another point here, this will be another lung point. If you take your hands, come a little closer here. If you take your hands and instead of doing this, so not like interlacing all the fingers, see if you can just hook the thumb and index finger. And when you do so, the hand on top, if you let the hand and the index finger kind of rest down, your index finger will end up just at the outer side of your wrist. There's kind of a crook in there. And that's lung 7. That's a different point. And this point is quite often used in acupuncture if you ever get needles in your arm. So you can do this and then let the finger kind of curl around. I have my tattoo and my watch there. If you do the other hand, same thing, other side. So this point is particularly good for any symptoms or pain related to the head or the neck, which can also be like if you're having a head cold, for example, but it could just be a simple headache. It's very good at what we call, or what's referred to as releasing the exterior, which can be helpful if you are dealing with cold and flu symptoms. What do I mean by releasing the exterior? So sometimes if your symptoms or your cold is like a bug that's inside, imagine that you caught the bug inside of a glass jar. Well, the bug is still in there, just zipping around. You have to open the cap in order to let him out to help the energy move and to help the pathogen get out, right? It's like opening the doors and windows to let the fly out. But you got to open the windows first. And this can do that. It can open or release the exterior to release heat, or in some cases also to release cold. And so you can stimulate that point with just a gentle circle, clockwise circle. Sometimes there's sort of a natural divot. Sometimes it's a little bit tender. These are both indications of that you found that point. All right, one more point, and this one is related to the large intestine line. So I was starting to say that the large intestine starts at the index finger, comes down here, right at the crook, and that's where large intestine 4 is. Now, you don't want to stimulate this if you're pregnant because it can induce labor, which is sometimes useful, but maybe not until you're ready. But you can take maybe your pinchy fingers of the other hand and kind of squeeze right in that center there in the webbing of your hand. One option could be just a squeeze and hold, or you could make circles with your thumb or your finger. And again, it exists on both sides, so feel free to explore there. Now, this point is a point that I use every time I go to the dentist. I don't mind the dentist, but I also don't love the dentist, right? And any pain or sensation in the head or in the upper body or related to the mouth and face, this can be really helpful. So this is a good headache point. It's a good pain in the head, anywhere, neck, similar to the helpfulness of the earlier point, right, on your wrist. But this one is a super big energy mover, which is, again, why we wouldn't want to stimulate it if you're pregnant and not ready to give labor or to labor. So I hope those were helpful. So throughout our practice today, again, we'll be taking care of the whole body in a way, but really emphasizing arm positioning. And so I just want to say right away, like if any of those positions, either arm related or otherwise related, just don't feel right for you, you can maybe just do one arm or no arms. It's all good. Find a position that works for you, and I'll be here to help. If you're ready to start, we'll start on the back. So make your way down. But before we get there, let me just back up just 1 second. If you can grab your blanket and prepare it so that there's just one less thing for you to have to think about. I'm going to unfold mine so it's kind of a medium-sized rectangle. And then I'm going to roll just like a baby roll, kind of a skinny roll here. And I'm going to put that to the side, but it's ready to go for when I'm ready for it. All right. I'm going to keep sharing about the meridians as we go through practice, but for now, make your way down onto your back if that feels okay, and enjoy this transition. So continue to move or be however it feels good or helpful. Sometimes a nice squeeze of the knees and towards the chest can feel nice, or maybe a rock side to side. And then perhaps grab onto the right knee with the hands. Let the left leg come down along the floor for wind relieving pose. This is technically not a yin shape. We're just starting here. And if you squeeze gently that right knee in towards your chest, you'll stimulate the large intestine, or the colon, as it's sometimes called, which starts or moves up the right side, over and down the left. So start with a gentle stimulation on the right side, and you might hold it there for a few seconds. And then switch legs and pull the left knee in and gently stimulate the left side with a gentle squeeze. Now you decide how much you're pulling in. You can also bring the leg a little wider to the side and make room for the belly. We're not trying to like hurt and press. We're simply stimulating in a gentle way. You might try that one more time to each side. Now, the large intestine is in charge mostly of elimination, right? Taking all the liquids, turning it into a solid, and boop, quite literally, right? Energetically, it's also much like the lungs, connected to sadness and grief and the ability to let go. And so when we can't let go, or when something's stuck, sometimes quite literally, right, your elimination might be a bit stuck. It's really hard for energy to flow. And so there might be stagnation, there might be other symptoms. And sometimes that comes directly in relation to the lungs, where you might get a cold that you just can't get rid of if you're grieving. When you feel complete with that little squeeze and wind relieving pose, go ahead and let your feet come flat on the floor for a moment in constructive rest. You might notice the support of the earth underneath your back. And from here, you're welcome to keep the legs as they are, or bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide for butterfly. As you do that, as you open up the legs, notice if it feels like a little bit like straining. You want to be able to let go of muscular effort in this yin style of practice. And this is where maybe a pillow or two or your blanket roll might be helpful. So there's a couple different things you could do. You could have a pillow or a block under either side of your thighs. Or if you come up and take your blanket roll and wrap it around the soles of your feet before you come into the opening, right? Wrap your soles of the feet, come underneath the ankles so it kind of catches them. And then hopefully when you open out to the side, the bottom part of the blanket roll helps to catch the ankles in a way that feels supportive to the rest of your legs as well. You can try that, and if it doesn't quite work for you the way you'd hoped, feel free to skip it or use some pillows or blocks under the thighs. And then if you'd like, for the arm position, bring the arms up overhead, either in a V or something similar where you can let go of the effort. So for me to straighten the arms and create a V, I feel like I have to do the work, right? My muscles are engaged. But if I let the elbows rest down on the floor, I'm still creating some spaciousness through the arms and the chest while releasing muscular effort. Once you've created your shape, your reclined butterfly shape, see if you can relax in the shape. And then enjoy some time in the shape. How long will we be here? Probably another minute. But that doesn't mean you have to be here that whole time. I trust you to trust yourself to know if something feels not right or if you're feeling done with the shape. Ideally, the amount of sensation you're feeling is fairly low, somewhere like a 2 to 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. If that changes at all, that's a good indication to change the pose or gently move out of it. What does it feel like to breathe in this shape? When you feel ready to come out of the shape, perhaps first draw the arms in and give yourself a little hug, crossing one arm over the other, and bring the opposite hand to opposite shoulder. And then reach down with your hands to help your legs together. Sometimes it can feel a little stuck or stiff after holding a shape in that passive kind of way. And maybe a nice squeeze of both knees in or a stretch of the legs long feels good. Move in a way that you find helpful or good afterwards. It could be something active like rocking back and forth, or it could be something more restful or sweet. Sometimes something active like a bridge pose with the feet flat and lifting the hips can feel nice. Using the muscles now for a moment of more yang or energetic practice before we do another round of yin or passive practice. When you feel like you're enjoying your transition and you're ready for something else, roll off to one side and help yourself up to sit. How you doing? Okay. So for our next shape, you'll want your blanket roll again. And you can decide if you're rolling it all the way up or like I have it just like halfway rolled up. And that might depend a little bit on the stiffness of your blanket. I'm using what we call a yoga blanket or a Mexican style blanket where it's pretty stiff. And we'll come into a variation of supported fish pose. So for this one, you'll roll down onto your back again. And the blanket roll might just hit somewhere near the upper chest or shoulders. And then option one is to bring the arms up above the blanket roll. And feel free to scoot around until you find a place where you feel good. And if you decide your blanket roll is too thick or too thin or not right, then come on up, adjust the blanket roll, and try again. And if you don't find a place where you want to stay for a little bit because the blanket is bothering you, that's okay. Skip it. You could also slide yourself down a little bit so that it hits just a little bit differently with the arms underneath the blanket roll. Here, instead, you might feel the blanket roll kind of supporting that space underneath the back of your neck. Either way is wonderful, and none of the above is also a great choice. Some of you will feel comfortable with the feet flat on the floor, knees bent. Others might extend the legs long. It's up to you. See what lets you relax most in this shape. So step one in a yin yoga practice is to create the shape. And you're worth all the time and wiggles and adjustments to find what's just right for you. Step two is to relax or let go of muscular effort as much as possible. And step three is to be in the shape. You could also replace the word be with breathe in the shape. No, there's no special way you need to breathe. But sometimes it can be nice to simply listen or notice or tune in to your breath rhythm while you're in the shape. Even a few seconds of being with the breath can open up the energy channels and allow prana or chi, the life force, to move more freely. What's the effect of gravity and time on your experience? When you feel ready to move out of the shape, you might bend your knees so the feet come flat again and roll to one side so you can scoot the blanket roll out of your way and return onto your back with nothing underneath to block or support you. You're welcome to maybe steer the knees around in a circle to massage the back on the ground, or move in any way that feels good here. Our next shape will be a variation on a twist. So if you bring your feet flat, but a little bit wide, like your yoga mat wide, and then maybe your arms come out, but bend. So they're in more of like a cactus shape. Now you get to decide, is it a 90-degree angle with your elbows? Are the elbows a little lower? Are the elbows a little higher, like the TSA pose? Or does this shape not work for your arms? And that's okay too. You can let the arms stay close to the body instead. But let your knees drop over to your right, allowing the trunk to twist. And feel free to change your mind now if you decide that one or both arms need to shift. Perhaps scan the body for any areas that feel like they're tight or holding. And when you find a spot like that, you might just ask your body, is it safe to let go? And if the answer from your body is ever no, please honor that. Your body's constantly trying to keep you alive and protect you from many, many things. And so it's okay if today the answer is no. When you feel ready to explore the other side, you might simply lift the knees to return to your starting position. Decide if there's a transition moment that you want to have here. And if so, take it, enjoy, move, stretch, or simply be in not that shape. When you're ready to set up for the twist on the other side, let your knees fall to your left. And if you decide your arms have been out in the cactus shape for long enough, maybe on this side, you let the hands come closer to the body. You could also hug yourself and grab the opposite shoulder. And relax all over again on this side. When you feel ready to make your way out of the shape, do so sweetly. Perhaps return to your starting position. Allow the arms to change positions. And then enjoy any transitional movements or wiggles or stretches. From here, roll over onto your belly. And prepare for Sphinx pose. So for many, Sphinx will feel like where you want to be, and that might be elbows somewhere underneath you. Now you get to decide if you want to stay more upright in the shoulders. Some people like to kind of slouch or even let the chin hang down. Check in and notice how much sensation you're feeling in the lower back when that happens, and keep it really low for this one, like a 2 or 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. If you feel like your legs can't relax or let go of muscular effort, then maybe that arch is too much. Maybe you walk the hands forward a little bit or widen the elbows and change the shape. Another option is if you're interested in doing prone, meaning belly down, eagle arms. It gets a little awkward, but it might be interesting. So from here, you would cross your right arm over your left and try to go above the elbows. Now, when you do that, bend your elbows and see if you can hold on to your opposite shoulder. That would be option 1 for that. If you can awkwardly wiggle around enough to find the other hand, and then move your elbows out a little bit away from your chest, belly, that would be prone eagle arms. Now, sometimes it feels like I'm wobbling off to one side, and that's okay if you end up falling a little bit. Or if you have a pillow, a prop, or that blanket roll next to you, you can arrange it there so that it doesn't feel quite so awkward or quite so rolly. Now, if you get to this place and you're able to interlace that or, braid the arms in this way, but the sensation now is really intense, then maybe you unwind and return to Sphinx pose or something else. I'll be here for a few more seconds before we switch to the other side, but take your time and enjoy as best you can whatever shape you're in. If you've braided the arms for eagle arms, you'll notice perhaps the sensation on the outer shoulder area, that outer arm, the large intestine meridian. And if you have the arms connected, maybe unwind them. If you're in Sphinx, you could also unwind and come down to your belly. Perhaps bring the arms out wide with the palms facing down for a moment. And undoing of the tie or the cross. Feel free to do any kind of transitional poses or movement. For me, I want to come up to hands and knees and maybe enjoy a little cat pose, little cat cow, or even a wiggle. And then we'll go back down to do the second side. If you want to revisit Sphinx pose, you can. I'll give you some options if you were in Sphinx and you want to try something different. So for those of you exploring the eagle arms on the other side, just be nice to yourself if it has to look different on this side. Sometimes the arms can reach a certain place, like the shoulders, fairly easily, but maybe finding the other hand is maybe not possible on this side, and that's okay. If you feel like you're falling over to one side, maybe bring the pillow underneath your your right shoulder, or abort that and either play with maybe Sphinx pose or what we call seal pose. You could press the palms into the floor and straighten the elbows. Now this looks a little more intense, right? Because I've come up and created a different kind of an arch in the back. But for some people, this feels fine. For others, they might want to walk the hands wider or forward. And if you decide it's not for you, then come back down. Another nice choice is to come up onto hands and knees and take heart melting pose or puppy dog stretch, where you reach the arms out in front and perhaps let the forehead come to a block or the floor. If none of the above feels right, maybe you set the hips back towards the heels for extended child's pose with the arms out in a V shape or even with the elbows down. There's lots of choices. You decide. Perhaps enjoy another moment wherever you are. And release a more intentional letting go breath, like, oh. Start to unwind if your arms are crossed, or move out of child's pose if that's where you are, and continue to transition in your own way, whether that's a restful moment in a different shape or movement and something else. It could also be something more young or exciting, like a downward dog pose. Trust your process and trust your instincts. How you doing? If you're ready for something different, we'll come to sit. I'm going to bring some padding, a little folded blanket underneath my bum. You're welcome to bring a pillow or something else if you like, and it's always easier to slide off of it than it is to stick it under. And our last shape together before relaxation will be dragonfly, which is simply a seated wide angle shape. So take your legs wide, but not to their absolute widest. You still want to be able to relax the muscles. And you can decide if you flex the feet, relax them, or point them. It changes the experience, but you're in charge and in choice. So one option would be to simply be here. The idea is to create some stimulation on the inner legs, allowing the energy to flow more freely there. Option two would be to fold forward right in the center. And option three would be to spend a little bit of time folded towards one side or one leg, a little bit of time over on the other leg, and then a little bit of time in the middle. And if that's what you would like to explore, I'll keep time so that you have some time in all of those positions. I'm going to start leaning off to the left. As best you can, let gravity gently draw you towards the earth, towards the leg, towards letting go. If you're doing each side, maybe switch and come over to the other side. And then maybe enjoy another minute moving through to fold in the center. Feel free to use the hands and arms to brace you so that the rest of you can relax. And sometimes blocks or a pillow, if you have them, can be nice as a place to land. When you feel ready to move out of the shape, do so sweetly. And then maybe use your hands to gather your knees up and the legs together. Feel free to add some loving touch to the places that might be a little bit tender from that. And then maybe continue to move or explore some more energetic or yang movements. For me, leaning back on the hands with the feet on the floor can feel nice. Or lift the bum, turn it into upward table. If you want to do the straight leg version, we call it upward plank. Or it might be a swish of the knees or some other shape that feels helpful and allows any of the residual tenderness to leave the body. Now we're ready for relaxation, or now I'm ready for relaxation. You can linger and explore and transition as you like. And so the question is, how do you want to relax tonight? It might be nice to just lie down. It might be really sweet to support yourself in the lying down. And so if you have a blanket you want to cover with, or a pillow for under the head, snuggle into something that feels good. And I just want to say that sometimes we did a lot on our backs already. And so if you're kind of feeling like me, like, oh, I don't want to lie back down again, I still want to feel restful and supported, you might just scoot to where your back is supported by the wall, or maybe a couch behind you, and cover with any warm support or blankets. You could also do legs up the wall pose or legs up the couch pose. And so listen to what your body needs right now and set yourself up in a way that feels like you can rest and relax best. When you find your final shape, can you relax into that shape? And give yourself permission to rest as a way to integrate all of our postures. Even though we moved slowly, we moved around a lot of energy. And so can you now allow that energy, which hopefully is moving more freely, to do its work in terms of allowing the body to feel more in harmony with itself, so that it too can continue to heal itself. And you let go of any need to do, and simply let the body be itself. Be gentle with yourself. You may be in a moment where you feel like you want to stay here a little bit longer. If so, trust that instinct. There's lots of time. If you're feeling like you got what you need and you're ready to transition into whatever's next, perhaps wake up the fingers and toes, maybe curl up on one side for a moment. And as you continue your transition in your own way, I'd like to read a poem from Dana Folds called Let It Go. Let go of the ways you thought life would unfold, the holding of plans or dreams or expectations. Let it all go. Save your strength to swim with the tide. The choice to fight what is here before you now will only result in struggle, fear, and desperate attempts to flee from the very energy you long for. Let go. Let it all go and flow with the grace that washes through your days. Whether you receive it gently or with all quills raised to defend against invaders. Take this on faith. The mind may never find the explanations that it seeks, but you will move forward nonetheless. Let go, and the wave's crest will carry you to unknown shores beyond your wildest dreams or destinations. Let it all go and find the place of rest and peace and certain transformation. The perfect poem on the day where the moon is in Scorpio as this is recorded. Scorpios are good. Let it go, clean out the closet, say goodbye to people or things that you don't want to have come back. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for being here, whether you're live or watching the recording. And I always love to hear from you, especially if you're watching the recording. Leave a comment and I'll respond. If you're here live, I'll be on for a few minutes to say hi or answer any questions. And if you're still in sleepy mode, enjoy. Zoom will just close and you'll be able to continue in your restfulness. I wish you a really, really sweet evening.